Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 7 of What If Naruto was one of the legendary 7. Remember to get this one to 1 that you like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also go ahead and check out the brand new episode over on Anime King 2 of What If Naruto was put through hell and adopted by the right Kage, and enjoy that guys. And also, I posted a brand new episode over in Making 3 of What If Naruto was exiled from the Osusuke clan. So go ahead and check out that and enjoy. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Making family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. And remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new, I'll be replying talking about to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, the group had snuck into Kumo, and now they were waiting as Naruto went out to patrol. Meanwhile that was going on at Kiri, as Ino had been gathered, as Mizukage was creating a special task force to lure out all the traitors in their society at the moment, and Ino was one of them. Unknown to Mizukage, Mikoto Uzumaki was there, as she was under disguise, as she had placed the interrogator under a genjutsu, and Ino, the moment the man touched her head, connected with his mind, and they were able to make the man say what they wanted, clearing Ino right there and then. Meanwhile, back at the village, as Naruto split the groups, they made their way. As they came upon a horde of Kumo Onvus, they were desiccated by Naruto as he turned them into dust. They watched as Naruto scaled the mountain with them using his Harashin kunais. It was a long fall, and not to mention they couldn't use chakra on it, because it would explode. The rock was very sensitive to chakra. They made their way up until chaos ensued when ninjutsu fell. As the explosion went off, his chakra reacted in stone as he got damaged really badly. As Naruto leaped down and caught him and flashed back up, he was in a really bad state. He was gonna die. It was then that Naruto remembered his past, with his mother being there, as Uso was under heavy fire from the other nation. Things were chaotic, but they had to stay together. Unity was the thing that they needed right there and then. Naruto was a prodigy, and his mother knew that. The Uzukage would stop asking one of these days, as he wanted Naruto to join the special ops force that would protect Uso from the shadows, because her son was that powerful already at a young age. As his brother Nagato was there as well, as she watched them train. The day finally came as they went to war. At first, it seems that they had things handled, but when their forces started to get diminished as the numbers were greatly overwhelming, his mother showed why she was a captain as she obliterated force after force. She also summoned a giant wolf. But then, a strange beast emerged from the crowd. He was cloaked in the Biju chakra. As he fought Naruto, as Naruto fought him back, but he was too powerful. His mother arrived though and took the thing head clean off. She activated her Mangita Sharingan after healing Naruto's wounds, as she had sage energy flowing through her body. Just a simple touch as she healed away all of his scars, all of his cuts, as she forced the genjutsu on him to run. He tried to fight it, he was fighting it, but she forced more for her chakra and he ran. As she turned to face the oncoming army, she went in like a butcherer and she slaughtered as many as she could, but she was taken down. As she stayed behind to protect them all, as Naruto focused back on main jutsu, as he activated his technique, Sage RT said, "My tonic, regeneration." So yeah guys, it was basically as we left off. You guys can switch across and play check out for yourself. So what do you say begin this new episode? Zabuza and each of the swordsmen watched with precision that he had never seen before. As Naruto removed all of the rocks that were embedded in Mainjutsu, his hand was glowing a bright green as he sealed up all the wounds. He didn't just stop there as Jutsu recreated the bone, mended it back together, mended the flesh. There was nothing, not even a scar left behind. Haku sobbed in relief when she heard Mainjutsu release a sigh of relief. She then looked towards Naruto, who was doing everything in his power to keep the man amongst the world of living. Why go so far? She couldn't help but ask in a whisper as she saw him sweating. As Naruto looked up, the entire squad had the very same look in their eyes. He looked back at Mainjutsu and thought about the question. As a spy, he was never supposed to reveal the true extent of his powers. Even though he had not revealed everything that he possessed, he had still crossed the line for this boy. As he looked towards Mainjutsu, for a moment, he saw Nagato, who was smiling back at him. Then his image vanished. As he looked back at his comrades, even if the faces were different now from his past, the feelings were still there. Because he's one of us, said Naruto. Haku and me smiled on hearing that, but the others, who were more battle-hardened, were yet to understand or comprehend the full extent of his reason. All of us are different in many ways, but we are a team. We are Kiri, finest warriors entrusted with our nation's future. But most of all we have right now is each other. We're a family. As he got a soft gaze of understanding from Imrai and Jinpachi. There's no such thing as family, said Zabuza, as he remembered all that he was taught in order to survive. All he had done to survive, including murdering his own classmate in the academy. He couldn't. We are now, said Naruto. He flinched on hearing Naruto's unwavering answer, and he felt something stir inside of him at the blonde, unwavering gaze. Families always betray, said Kisame, as he remembered his dark past. As Naruto lowered his gaze slightly, knowing that that was true, considering who he was. He had no right to preach about family on the very people that he was spying on in the first place, but he had seen how few of them had given up on Mainjutsu the moment things went south, and as the commander he had to make sure this mission was a success. Maybe they will someday, said Naruto. As Kisame looked towards him with a frown. Then why, Kisame said. Because you don't give up on family, no matter what, said Naruto. He saw Zabuza and Kisame still didn't fully agree with his opinion, but at least they were thinking about it. Even he could not undo years of gruesome training that they have underwent in mere moments. He gently lifted Mainjutsu over his shoulder and stood up. As he glanced up at the mountain with a determined gaze, he looked towards Haku, followed by Jinpachi and Imrai. The way he fought for Mainjutsu and put himself on the line had showed them what kind of man he truly was. What is the next move, Commander? He looked back towards his squad as he was pleased to see determination burning in their eyes. More importantly, he saw the way most of them wanted to trust him after what he did for one of their own. We climb the rest of this mountain and then establish a makeshift camp and scout the rest of the area for more intel. When we have that in place, we strike, he instructed. Commander, we can't afford any more accidents. We are with you, but climbing in the first place exposed us to more risks. Just like Mainjutsu, said Haku. As Naruto nodded, I'll carry you all in one shot to the top with my teleportation technique. Considering the height, air pressure, all of your weight and the distance, my chakra will most likely get exhausted. If there are enemies waiting for us at the top, I won't be much help until my chakra levels rise once again. It's still a better plan than risking so far up the way of climbing this mountain. Besides, you've done more than enough. We have your back, no matter what's up there, Haku said. The entire squad nodded. There was no hesitation. He gave them an affirmative nod as they gathered around him and placed their hands on his back. Ninja wire on your kunai. Be ready to hit the nearest tree top or rocks. You have 5 seconds to establish a link. Do not miss, he said. They were all nervous, but they nodded. That was all he needed to see. He focused on the highest 3-pronged kunai that he established on top of the mountain. Even from that point, it was another 500 feet to the top, one that he had to get to in a few seconds. That won't be easy. Mei only had a moment to blink as she felt her entire world just squeeze. Words could not describe the sensation. She felt herself being crushed to a small rock before pushed through in a small space, and then it happened. She was in mid-air, her and her entire squad, amongst the clouds. The nauseous feeling took over as she saw him through another object much higher. Again and again they were all crushed as they pushed through that strange teleportation until she felt like she was about to puke her entire stomach out. Her eyes widened as they arrived at the mountain edge top. Despite seeing that they would pull their weight once they reached the top, they were all disoriented from travel. It was hard enough not to puke your guts out, and they were having short of breath up here. Naruto must have anticipated that, as a clone of him appeared and threw a 3-pronged kunai towards the nearest rock. All of them felt that nauseous feeling once again, and he once again teleported them. They all collapsed on the ground. She looked up to see Naruto taking several deep breaths, his sage mode power vanishing. Without a word, he fell unconscious. Commander! Time skip. 3 weeks later in Kiri, Ino silently stared at the short clip in her hand. She has been looking at it for a good 5 minutes now, and her eyes have yet to move away from the 2 positive signs on the medical device. It was not like she never imagined this not happening in her life before. Every woman at least thought about this once in her life. But right now on this subject, her feelings were conflicted. She needed a second opinion, one that was more rash. As even if she looked calm on the outside, on the inside, she was a nervous wreck, and she didn't want her commander in front of her to notice. This is bad, said Sakumo. He flinched on his inappropriate choice of words when he received a glare from her. He raised his hands in surrender. Any word from him yet? Sakumo asked, trying to change the subject as those murderous eyes were on him. No, Ino whispered. He's a father, isn't he? Sakumo said gently. Any other woman would be offended on hearing that. But in their line of work, it wasn't unusual for any operatives to use sex as a weapon to get what they want from their target. Naruto and Ino were no different to this rule, as Sakumo watched as she nodded, confirming that Naruto was a father. Naruto was a good man and a good ninja. And Sakumo knew even if they denied, they had feelings for each other. The both of them had grown to love each other from their sheer pain, their sense of duty, and respect for each other. I'm scared, Sakumo, Ino whispered. He stepped beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder in a comforting manner. Whatever your decision, I will make sure the Hokage and the upper heads accept this. They will not have a say in the matter. He promised, and he meant it. If that young brat Hirzan and his advisors did not listen to his advice, then they will know how bad it is to piss off a group of special op ninjas, as they were a small group of people who looked out for each other no matter what. His promise served to push away most of her fears as she hugged him, tears in her eyes. No matter how operative training, sometimes feelings can get things rather conflicted. I take it this means that you're not dropping the child, Sakumo said. Not my choice, but she whispered, as Sakumo knew what terrified her the most. She was scared of Naruto, what he would do with this change in their life. For one, it could bolster their place in Kiri even more, push them deeper into the society. Many clans have been trying to get their daughters married off to Naruto since they discovered he was the last male of the Namikaze clan. They didn't even care that he was already married to Ino. They were using Kiri lax laws that allow ninja clans heads to have multiple wives for the sake of the clan rebirth. If it was dropping in numbers, it was practiced by the water daimyo himself, so the law was indeed a thing. It was only Naruto's evasion of this entire matter that kept them at bay, especially the Kaguya. With this child though, many of them would be forced to take a step back. Many would argue, but he could say that he has already started to do his part by repopulating Namikaze clan. It also allowed Konoha more leverage over Naruto. Maybe, with this, they could make him switch his loyalty over to the village instead of Uzu. Their village needed a powerful ninja like Naruto, and the prospect of Namikaze clan being reborn in Konoha adding to the military strength. Although that created a big problem for Sakumo right now. What will you do now? I doubt his covered mission will be over anytime soon. And the more you wait, he said. I will not make a decision without informing him, she said. She could not do that. He trusted her. The most she could do was wait until he returned. Then you need to resign from the Anfu group. Weed not the spies out of Kiri, said Sakumo. No, Ino. Sakumo. They're not to be underestimated, she said. Have you forgotten what they have done the past 3 weeks alone, Ino said. Sakumo flinched at that. The Anfu commander had formed a special team that was investigating every branch of Kiri for possible spies. No matter what clan you were from, no matter the connection, no one is spared. The spies of Konoha has been kept well protected so far. Because of Ino, her being on that team, and she has been diverting them to other spies. They have already found some spies from the stone and the sand. The spy from the stone had been working as a medic inn. The sand had been working as a secretary in the Mizukage's tower. After brutal torture, for intel, the both of them were swiftly executed. It didn't stop there. They hunted down and executed entire families, friends, and a few associates that were connected with those spies. The fact that they even slaughtered the Kunoichi from the Stone Sun in cold blood, it made their intentions very clear. It was the absolute purge, and no one will be spared no matter who you are. As a person, Sakumo was worried for Ino safety even more now. Know that he knew that she was with child. It was not safe for her to hang around those trigger, happy monsters. On the other hand, the commander inside of him knew how vital a role that she played. Without her, most things would go to hell. No matter the situation, I am still Ino Yamanaka of the Leaf, she said, the loyalty in her tone. I cannot step aside and risk the life of my comrades, especially when I have the power to save you, she told him as he sighed. They're a dangerous man, Ino. Don't you ever forget that. If something happened to you and this child, Sakumo warned, they won't do anything to me, considering they know that Naruto will burn them in the depths of the darkest fire pit if they do. And considering that the Mizukage favor Naruto, he will be the first one to protect me if my loyalty is questioned. Sakumo could not deny that by now. Naruto had established a small cult for himself in Kiri. Most of the civilian population loved him, and the shinobis, they respected him. The fact that the Mizukage saw him as a candidate to succeed him in the future showed how much that he had put himself in this role of being a part of Kiri. Everyone had seen a glimpse of his power as well. The Yonvu commander would not think of thinking that his wife was a spy, much less take actions against her. But there were still a lot of dangers, and he did not like it one bit. In the end, he chose what was best for their group, and hoped he did not come to regret it later. Fine, I will leave what to do with this child between you and Naruto. You can continue to be a part of the group and investigate the spies, but also keep on reporting everything back to me. Even if you feel paranoia about something, I want to know, said Sakumo. I understand. Thank you, she said. I don't think you understand, he said, as she saw him sigh. If anything ever happens to you, Naruto knows about most of our spies here, and that includes me, said Sakumo, hoping that she was getting what he was hinting at. He would never betray his village or Konoha were allies, said Ino. She took offense that he would even suggest that. Not after what Naruto has done for them. Sakumo just looked towards her calmly. She did not know Naruto's full history, so he could understand why she could not see what him and the other higher ups saw. It gave them nightmares just thinking about it. Sakumo respected Naruto, or should he say Minato. That was his birth name. He had not come across a ninja in their life that kept on fighting so much. There was no question about his courage, skill, or loyalty. But Naruto had seen too much and lost everything until Ino came in his life. If anything were to happen to her, she was it. She was his breaking point. Operatives like Naruto was the one that kept the shadow in the peace. But if they were to be let loose on the world, they can cause the most damage. And it would be catastrophic if Naruto was to turn against them all. If he actually broke, Sakumo would dread that day. A day that he prayed never come. Time skip. Land of Lightning. Naruto stood in his tree branch, as his other squad mate was spread out across the valley. They were neatly camouflaged and not visible to the naked eye. Their chakra was also suppressed, so they won't be detected by the enemy. Zabuza did not like what he was witnessing. Almost every member of their squad had joined Naruto to estimate the strength of their enemy and locate their targets. Let's reconcile our findings, said Naruto. As Zabuza nodded, there is around 4 castles in the near vicinity, guarded by nearly 2,000 to 3,000 enemy forces. They are spread out equally, and there's a large no-man castle between each land. It is almost impossible to sneak in regularly. When it comes towards the detective barriers, the regular patrols, and even if we do manage to get in, we don't exactly know the location of our target. Our interrogation of a few officers did not reveal anything on the inside, said Zabuza. They had been careful. They had altered the memories of those that they have interrogated and sent them back to their posts. The enemies were already on high alert. They had discovered that there was some problems up in the mountain regions. When the border patrol went silent, they have tightened their security to the max. We could go for an aerial attack, but we will be detected right away, and if we land in the wrong castle, where the daimyo is not, we will lose our one chance. You were not kidding when you said that this was a suicide mission, Zabuza said, with a scoff. The mission still stands, said Naruto. I know that, said Zabuza. I just don't see how we can get past them all without raising an alarm, said Zabuza. As Naruto acknowledged that, his partner was right on the money. He pulled a cigarette and lighted it. He looked towards Zabuza as he took a puff. As he pulled another and tossed it towards Zabuza, who caught it with a toothy grin. They both smoked in silence as they pondered their dilemma. Even Naruto was at a loss. Even if they tried to get through with stealth, they would be detected. There was only one way left now. We split up into two teams. Team 1, that was made up of a diversion unit that will draw majority of the enemy forces by getting into a fight with the border patrols. Team 2 will be made up of 4 members to sneak behind enemy lines. It will be more easier to detect the target, as the enemy will try to get the man to safety. To the most secure place. It's risky, but I don't see any other choice. Team 1 should be made up of the strongest fighters, since there's a chance they will get eliminated with the pressure that they will be under. Team 2 should be made up of those with stealth, to quickly seek and destroy the target. As Zabuza saw that Naruto has already considered who he wants to take part on Team 1 and Team 2, but he wanted Zabuza to see if the man agreed with his acknowledgement by coming up with his own first. I think Kisame, you and me, should be Team 1. The three of you are the heavy hitters of our team, while the rest of us just sneak in and take out the family. But if we commit the entire team to this plan, there's no one left to send for backup. Just in case if we're captured, we will be dead by the time our village send reinforcements. That's a risk we'll have to take, said Naruto. We have come too far to go back home now. In that case, let's go and brief the others. They won't like it, said Zabuza. You go ahead, said Naruto. I'll erase any presence of us being here. Zabuza nodded as he vanished off, as Naruto focused on the enemy stronghold. In truth, he was not sure of this plan, but he had limited options to complete this mission. He could not give up now when he was one that pushed his mission in the first place. What made him curious was, he received intel about his hideouts from Uza's network. As far as he knew, Uza didn't have any spies when it comes towards daimyo's rank. Perhaps someone betrayed him, but who? He tensed as he pulled his blade and turned. There was a female Kunoichi standing on a treetop, looking down at him. She was wearing a grey sleeve shirt, dark pants, and black boots. There was a standard katana placed at her back, and a pouch for kunais and shurikens at her thigh. Her face was covered by a black mask, similar to an anbu, while the kumo headband was wrapped around her right arm. Her bright red hair was tied in a bun. Her calm, purple eyes looked towards him, with no surprise or alarm. He swiftly threw his 3-pronged kunai. He appeared above her. He brought his blade down, but she blocked it with her own. The weapons clashed with a mighty blow. Several sparks flew in the cold night. He narrowed his eyes as he saw the playfulness in her eye. She jumped away as he froze. She removed her mask. She looked directly at him with a look of joy and sadness. If there was any doubt in his heart, it was erased as she clenched her fist and placed it towards her chest. Most people did not understand his gesture, but he did, because he was the one that created the salute. A tradition that he only passed on to a few people in this world, and she had been one of them. It's been a while, Captain Minato, she said, as Naruto looked at her, unable to believe that she was real. For the past 10 years she has been a ghost that haunted his dreams, a reminder of what he had lost. She was an S, just like him, a Spartan, the only one apart from him who probably survived the massacre 10 years ago. Kushina, he said. He remembered the young teenage girl, same age as him, with that fiery temper. She had never been one of the heavy hitters, but her skill with Funjutsu, her sensory ability, and her booby traps surpassed his own by many degrees. Her healing powers had been the best amongst all the Spartans, even his own. Most important, she could erase her chakra signature, making her invisible to any sensory ninjas, including him, Ghost. That had been her name amongst the Spartans. The world knew them as the S-program ninjas. Only the Uzumakis knew what the S stand for. Not even Konoha knew much about them. They only figured out some information when they had rescued Hoshirama. 99, she said, a faint smile, confirming her unique number amongst the company size of her former Sparta unit that was made up of more than 120 ninjas. 47, he said back, as she nodded, as the both of them found themselves hopping towards each other as they embraced in a tight hug. She could not help herself though. She pulled back and lowered his face mask as she kissed him passionately. She felt his surprise at the gesture and his hesitation, but he made no move to stop her. She broke the kiss as she felt like he was overwhelmed. After all, no one expects you to be calm after you find out that your partner slash girlfriend was alive after 10 years you thought that he had died in a massacre. How, he said, still looking shocked. She gave him a nod of consent as he activated his red eyes, as she remembered them quite fondly, as he was able to see the memory. Flashback, 10 years ago. Kushina groaned in pain as she looked up at the dark sky. Her fellow spotters around her, as she saw their dead corpses. Her only solace was the hundreds of Kumo ninjas that lay dead, showing that the S program was not someone to be trifled with. As she glared over towards the monstrous two tails that was raging a few kilometers away. If not for that beast's battlefield of being the grave of Kumo's entire force, the bastard had seen how much they were being outclassed, so they brought their weapon of destruction towards the front line. Some of her ribs were still broken, a massive wound or some that she was barely able to heal because it was chunks of rocks and she had to remove them. Her comrades on the other hand wasn't so lucky. The beast set fire a bomb right towards their feet. She smiled when she heard the tail beast scream as she saw a dark flash attacking the monster. "We leave the rest to you, Captain," she said, as she felt herself getting more and more tired, until she saw the head of Echo. He had been one of the youngest serving in their group. He was just 12 years old. Now his head was severed, his eyes wide open looking at her. He was lacking a body. She looked in those eyes and felt like they were demanding something from her. Justice. Her comrades were dead, her village had suffered. Her clan had went through so much death and pain. Her gaze landed upon a dead Kumo Junin. More specifically, the headband wrapped around her forehead. With that, she dragged herself towards the edge of the forest. Most of the Kumo ninjas had fled, using the tail beast as a cover. She switched her uniform with the dead. They had the same color here. As she made her way, using her sentry to find out where the ninjas went off to, she looked back towards the battlefield as she saw Minato butchering the tail beast. For a moment she hesitated, knowing that Minato would need her now, especially since Nagata was dead. But then she saw the other spotters that lay dead on the battlefield, and she knew she had to avenge them. She doubted that the Mizukage would establish his unit ever again. Many people had went in an uproar when they saw, and found out about the brutality that the children went through, the ones who survived, that is. When they saw that the spotters brought a great victory in the war, the people started to acknowledge and realize that he made a good decision. Most of all, even if Kumo lost his war, she believed that he wouldn't stop. They would just plan and plan and plan for more wars in the future. A ninja village was only as strong as the support it received from the daimyo. She had to make sure that man paid in blood for everything. And if she returned back home right now, she could never achieve that. As she glanced back towards Minato, knowing that her decision might end the future that they would have, a future that she had craved for. But as she took a breath, she was a spotter. Family, duty, honor. Those were their clan words, and she believed in them with all of her heart. As tears fell from her eyes, as she made her way towards the retreating enemy forces. In the flashback, Kushina gazed his reaction as she watched, as he took in everything, the action that she made on that night. Over the years, she had expected something from him, violent outbursts, but she never expected a calm nod with sadness in his eyes. "You don't resent me for leaving you behind?" Nearly going rogue, she asked, but he shook his head. "We are not kids anymore, Kushina. You're right. The spotters were gone after that night. Even with the two of us, the unit would never be resurrected. Although it was dangerous, it was best that you went after the ones responsible for the death of our friends. I doubt the villagers would have been kind if you had returned with me, with all the others dead." She had also shown him memory of her infiltrating Kumo military and working her way up towards the royal court over the past decade. She had re-established contact with Ozu. They had been furious, but they could not forego on her behalf, as they had her in the midst of the enemy forces, and she was highly skilled to deliver a message towards them, for them to gain more intel on what is going on. Their decision to not punish her worked in the long run, as she gave them intel that saved many lives, including the one of Tobirama Senjo. She was a part of the envoy team that was charged of protecting the Lightning Daimyo and his family. She was with the right Kage, the ones who went over the reports letters, before they were handed over towards daimyo, just in case of traps. The feudal lord was intimidated by the fearsome Kage, so they were always there. When she had learned about Toburama, survival, and captivity, she had passed that intel to Uzu. They had been very careful and actually used Kiri, eagerness for war, to make Minato convince them to attack Land of Lightning. It was for the best because Toburama was relatively safe. Even though he was in Kiri right now, she was sure that Minato would get the man back home, somehow. Even now, she was the one that revealed information about the daimyo whereabouts. But she never expected such a small force. The stacks were against them, so she had to step in to help. And plus she wanted to see the man that she was in love with. All those years ago, maybe a part of her still did, but she doubted that he felt the same. It had been 10 years. What you did was better than I trying to commit suicide, he said in a miserable laugh. She was truly saddened on hearing him say that. She knew what he has been up to in all these years. That was her request of passing back the information she wanted to know. What was he up to? How was things going along with him? He was the only other spotter that was still alive after all. But more than that, she wanted to know if he was okay, and he wasn't doing so good. The village shouldn't have ostracized you and blame you like they did. You did the best that you could. As he looked towards her surprise, you knew? She gave a hesitant nod. I kept tabs on you. He gave a sigh. Sorry, she said. You're such a nerd, you know that, he said. Her eyebrow twitched on hearing that nickname that he had given her. He had caught her peeping on him once taking a bath, and suddenly she deserved that name. She was about to retort back, but she saw him smiling. I'm glad you're still alive, Kushina, he said. She hugged him once again. After scanning the entire place, for no intruders, they sat down on a tree branch. She doubted anything could get past her sensory abilities. The closest enemy was 3 kilometers away. What happened to you, Minato, she said. She knew what happened in the battlefield was a tragedy, and what happened with his brother, but they were spotters, they fight till the end. And for him giving up, to almost committing suicide. I watched my friends die. I watched Nagato die. You think that would be the worst part, he said. She took his hand, knowing that the spotters were to him. It was the same with her. But you didn't die, she said, as she realized. He wanted to die alongside with his man. Instead, he was left all alone. She heard that he had visited the family of each spotter, even those who were orphans. He went to their respective orphanage, and talked to anyone that cared, or knew about those kids. He had saw their devastation and pain, and also the anger at him being the only one surviving, and their loved ones did not. Even after everything he has been through, he had stood strong, but he was still a 14-year-old boy back then. I hope they remember you, she said, a fierce determination in her eyes. This man had endured so much for their people, and he will still do it, till the end. As he saw determination in her eyes. What if we lose again, he said. She gave him a peaceful smile. Then, we'll do it together, she said. He leaned in and placed a kiss on her lips. He remembered the days that they had spent, squabbling together. Him getting on her nerves. When she visited his parents' grave. With him. The night that he asked her out. When he kissed her for the first time. Their training and missions. Him telling her about having a family with her someday. The way she had blushed. And whispered that she wanted the same thing. He remembered everything at once. Tears fell from her eyes. She wanted nothing more after knowing everything he has went through. Nothing more than to hold him in her arms and keep him away from all the problems that might come his way. To fill his heart with happiness. To make him live the peace that he deserved. To fulfill his dream of having a family of his own. A dream that she desired as well. When he finally broke the kiss, she stared into his blue eyes. Till the end. As she remembered the first time she heard that promise. Flashback. Nearly 15 years ago. As Naruto opened his eyes, he realized he was floating in the water. Before he started to panic, he realized that he was still breathing. There was something covering his mouth. A tube down towards his chest going down. It was giving him oxygen. He looked around as he was in a tube of water, with different cables attached all over his body. He saw there was hundreds of such similar tubes, all around him as he looked around, all full of young teenagers, boys and girls naked as him. He sighed in relief as he saw Nagato in a tube just beside him, as he was alive, as he saw his chest rising. Almost everyone else was in a similar state, which left him alone. He tried to close his eyes and go back to sleep, knowing that he was the one that chose his path, and his brother following his footsteps, even though he was against it. His brother was not one to listen. He heard a muffle as he turned. His gaze went on the naked red-haired girl. floating near him. Her eyes were looking at him. He saw the resolve in her eyes as well, as she extended her hand outwards, as she used her finger to swirl the water until it formed something. A name. Kushina. He smiled, as he realized she was telling him what her name was, and if that grin on her face was, she wanted to be a friend. He did the same. Minato. She nodded, as she writes something once again that warmed his heart. You will stay with me, she asked, as he knew that no one wanted to be alone in here, because if he was alone a week and he couldn't go back to sleep, it would have been a nightmare. She writes something once more. Till the end, they had all signed the agreements that prevent any responsibility of following the village if something happened to them in this training. They were all alone out here, experimented on by people they did not know, possibly never to see their family ever again, cut off from the outside world. He will never let Nagato experience that loneliness. He will be there for him no matter what. He looked towards others. They all want to protect Usopp just like him, and they risk everything to protect the village. He will be there for them too if they ever needed him. He looked back towards Kushina as he placed his fist over his heart as he wrote, till the end. Kushina placed her hand over her chest as well. 5 days later, in a dark room, a young boy screamed. He flashed against the table as the tubes attached to his body pumped a liquid inside of him. The pain was all-consuming. Words could not describe how it felt to have every bone inside of your body hardened. They became hard and stronger with each passing second. The feeling of your eyesight becoming twice as sharp, your ears picking up more sound than you could ever hear. The sensation of each and every chakra portion inside of your body activating and glowing like thousands of suns. The horror of watching your body change weight, size, right in front of your eyes as two strangers, dressed in white coat, observe you from a room, safe away from you. If he focused more, he could hear similar screams, where he knew children like him were going through the same pain. The thought of his brother, terrified, strapped to a metallic bed, going through this. No! Doctor, this boy. As another one gasped in surprise, as Minato struggled against the bindings. Remarkable. A sense of smell, hearing, reflex has nearly increased 3 times the size of an average shinobi. It was like his body was created to accept these genetic modifications. None of the others had shown this increase in potential. Remarkable, the female doctor said. Maybe it's because of the Uchiha and Senju. DNA inside of him, his chakra levels, was already higher than most Chunin level before the surgery. Now he's become the super soldier our village needs, commented the male lab assistant. In better work, she said. We have already lost nearly 50% of the subjects doing the testing of the genetic modification, she said in a disappointed tone. His eyes snapped hearing that. Being surrounded by nearly 300 young children these days, they were undergoing different procedures each day. Each and every one of them had shown green potential, and he was able to talk to Kushina. And now half of them were dead. His chakra started to rise. His bone strength started to get tougher and tougher. They had accounted for this, as seals appear over his body and restrict his movements, sapping away his energy. As he collapsed on the bed, the female doctor walked inside. Your anger reminded me of the tales of the 9-tailed fox rage. But you did well today, 47, she said. There was no sadness or guilt in her voice, even after she just killed half of his comrades. Most of all, they never called them by their names, only the code number. My brother, he said. He survived. He's also a remarkable specimen, and will do wonders in the future. Rest for now, 47, because when you wake up, you will be Fox. She gave him that name out of her twisted sense of humor, but he did not care. All that mattered was that his brother survived, and Kushina would also, as he felt darkness approach him. All those that sacrificed their life today would not go in vain. Till the end, he remembered Kushina's words. Time skip. A few months later, Captain Ryaka Uzumaki stood in front of her elite Chonins and the Chonins that were gathered to guard a hill near the village coastal borders. They were told to protect this hill and to expect an attack from friendly foes. Apparently, this was supposed to be live fire training from a new, unique force of their village. The fact that deadly force had been authorized showed them that this was going to be intense. Captain, we're ready. As she looked towards her second in command, squad leader Matsuo, Rika observed the map in her hand. She didn't expect their fellow allies to make this a piece of cake, but she had laid out all the plans, and her people had been scattered to provide personal support. So she doubted that their comrades could win. Rumors say that we might be going up against the S, said Matsuo, whispering to her. She pondered over that. Her small company was known as one of the best and most disciplined unit in their village. But they, like many others, knew that the Mizukage had made a next program. He had taken many young children. They were supposed to become super soldiers to protect the village from the shadows. She did not doubt that those kids would be going through horrific trainings, experiments even. She had been one of the few that objected to this program. What were the good of their shinobis if their little children were forced to become killing machines? But the higher-ups had won, and the program was started. Stay alert. Whatever the enemy might be, our objective is to protect this hill and defend it no matter what, she said. Just then, one of their runners, that was the one to deliver a message back to them from the sea coast, came running forward as she saw the panic in his eyes. Report. We have lost contact with our patrols near the sea, he said, panic in his voice. She pulled out her magnifying glass from her back pocket and knelt near the hilltop. She zoomed in as she saw a wall of dark smoke going towards the trenches. She frowned as she saw how thick the smoke was. Take cover! The moment her voice came out, there was a boom as the trench ignited, blowing all dangers away. Dust and dirt flew everywhere, burying the others as fires raged. She heard a whistling sound as she saw a massive fireball sailing towards the last trench line. The fires on the field died down as she caught the first glance of her enemy. The first one she saw was a young teenager, wearing dark pants, dark shirt, combat boots. He was wearing armor though, with thin blue lines on it. His entire face was covered by a gas mask. His eyes were protected by glasses. He had twin swords at his back, with various pouches over him. More and more appeared as she saw they were a full company. Her gaze then caught sight of the one that stood out. He was wearing a full white sleeve shirt under his black over armor, but the rest of his gear was the same as his comrades. But there was something about him. She had a feeling that he was the commander of these invaders. Her troops had tried to out the fires that hit the other trench. She watched as the operative in front of her went through hand sign. As his company watched, he released that dark smoke as his comrades fireball up in the air that came down. It was then that he unleashed his sword and charged forward, as the rest of them did the same as well. They used the smoke to obscure their vision, but the thing that caught her off guard was their speed. They were wearing heavy armor, but yet, as she calculated the distance that they moved, they were moving 50 kilometers per hour. Stop the advance, she yelled, as a small squad of Jonin stepped forward to stop them advancing. They released a storm of kunas and shurikens in the air that rushed toward the enemy force. 10 of them leaped high in the air, so high in fact it didn't seem normal. Could a ninja even jump that high? They released massive gusts of winds that blew and ripped apart the kunas and shurikens as they broke through the first trench, and they kept on moving. Her disarrayed troops then came face to face with them in close combat. She watched as a teenager slammed his fists into a full-fledged Jonin and sent him sailing like he was a rag doll. She watched as a kunoichi grabbed the man by his face and picked him up, jumping with him and slamming him into the ground, knocking him out cold. She watched as the enemy commander took out 4 of her Jonins within seconds. She watched as more and more of the hill got conquered until she and a small force of the only one left, having seen the things that they have done as now they were surrounded. She surrendered with her man. Her decision was accepted by him as he planted a flag at the top of the hill with 2 swords crossing. She could not hide her surprise and respect. Not even the best Jonins of Uzu could accomplish something like this in such short amount of time. How many exercises like this have you been through, she asked. She couldn't help herself. Just this one, he said. She was shocked. You're lying, one of the Jonins said. That can't be possible. This couldn't be the first one that they were doing. That's your opinion. We answered what the leader wanted to know. The boy says he went quiet, ignoring the Chunin. He then placed right hand over his chest. As Raika watches all of them do the same thing. It was a salute. She got back to her feet, and she and her man offered a traditional salute in response. As he spoke, apologies. If we were a little rough, he said. Raika chuckled as she looked towards her groaning ninjas that were in pain on the mountain sides and the ground. Rough would be an understatement. What's the name of your unit, Captain? She asked. She watches the enemy forces vanish in the sunshine, leaving behind their captain. S. That was all this he said. And he was gone. In the flashback. He looked towards Kushina and whispered, till the end. Time skip a day later. The sky had turned pitch black. The weather above them. The temperature had dropped, and it was now extremely cold. These hills. The nature up here was rather on and off. The place was cold, incredibly so. Not to mention how far they were. It reduced their operational efficiency, but it was the same as the enemy as well. He looked towards his team as they were getting ready. This that they were going to do would be a crippling blow to the land of lightning, because they would be fighting amongst themselves, and their enemies could come and pounce on them, ridding them from this war once and for all. Thanks to Kushina, he now knew where their target was located, and because of her, he had more confidence to do this, as he was going towards the White Castle. The daimyo wife has insisted to be near the hot springs, inside this cold weather, so they had moved towards the White Castle, the most decorative place. And that was where they all were. The man was living comfortably. If only he had cared about the mystery that he brought upon the world. As he looked towards his team, as they all were ready, they all had a determined gaze in their eyes. As Meijutsu had recovered, he beckoned for him to follow him as he stepped outside. "Hold your shoulder," said Naruto. "Much better. I'm fit for the duty, Captain," said Meijutsu. "Lead your team well," said Naruto. "They will be counting on you." "I still think you should choose someone else," said Meijutsu. As Naruto smiled a bit, "Have faith in yourself, you know what's at stake, and you value the life of your comrades. Trust your instincts," said Naruto. "How do you decide what's the right choice, Commander?" Meijutsu asked. As he always saw Naruto making the right choices, how did he do it? Every ninja make a gamble with each mission. You make choices hoping that they will be the right ones, but in truth, nobody knows the outcome of everything. You're true. Fate is tested when your decision proved to be the wrong one. What you do then is what proved to you what kind of man you are," said Naruto. Meijutsu took a breath. "I'll try my best," he said. "Trust yourself and your comrades. If shit hit the fan, never lose hope. Keep on fighting. And remember, I have your back." Meijutsu smiled at that. As Naruto turned back to the cave, as Mei and Kisame came over to him, they will be the distraction and cause as much chaos as possible, taking on the bulk of the enemy forces while the others sneak in and wipe out Daimyo's family. This was going to be dangerous. Yet he saw a grin on Kisame's face, always one for a good battle. As he looked towards Mei, she was a bit worried, but there was determination in her eyes not to fail, and he liked that. As they were ready to move out for one of the most dangerous missions of their life, for them. But guys, it'll be in episode right here. If you want to see the next person, do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. But more for now, see you guys soon. Peace.